You know, it's actually really funny how things go about, because when it comes to the Cody Ceci trade of all those years ago, back in 2018, the Toronto Maple Leafs sent over Connor Brown, Nikita Zaitsev, and Michael Carcone to the Sens in exchange for Ceci, Harper, Aaron Luchuk, and a 2020 third. Now, back at that time frame, Nikita Zaitsev was seen as this guy that had made his way over to the NHL from Russia. Pretty alright at the beginning, but as he played more and more, he kind of got settled in, and things didn't really proceed in that same kind of upward trajectory that you would have expected from a Russian defenseman coming over and establishing himself in the NHL. Connor Brown was in a spot where, despite actually showing off a pretty good knack for being at the right place at the right time, having that kind of scoring edge to his game, he was just, at the end of the day, a middle six, bottom six guy for the Leafs, which is why, taking a look at the cap hit that he did boast, it was seen as a valuable move to trade this guy away. He was a 29-ish, 30-point guy with the Leafs, and with other players coming onto the roster like Andreas Janssen full-time and Pierre Engvall and a few other players that were already within the organization, they just needed to shed some cap. Michael Carcone was an asset that the Maple Leafs ended up acquiring in a previous trade with the Vancouver Canucks, wherein they sent Josh Leivo to Vancouver for the aforementioned Carcone. This was seen as a move to give Josh Leivo an opportunity to actually be an NHL forward, because with Toronto, he just wasn't that high up there on the depth chart to be a consistent NHL player. And to Leivo's credit, man, the guy was great in Vancouver in the times that he was actually in the lineup. When he was in the lineup, Leivo was just that on-the-stick, off-the-stick guy. You could throw him out there in the shootout and he would win you some games. He would be honestly like the most underrated sniper on Vancouver. Of course, when he was in the lineup. Now he's in Calgary and he's looking pretty okay, but yeah. Aside from that, Toronto was in a spot where they shed off some of these players over to Ottawa in exchange for that Cody Ceci package. And it's really interesting to take a look at where everything is today, because looking at this trade 2 years later, man, this looks like a really, really good Ottawa Senators win in a vacuum. Mostly because of Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci was the guy who did spend a season in Toronto, 56 games played, 8 points. He was a +7 and he had a goal in the playoffs. But Cody Ceci in Toronto was just... oh man, you thought Nikita Zaitsev was an experiment. Cody Ceci was an experiment there. Because when I think of Cody Ceci and the Leafs, the first thing that I think about is that shift against Columbus in the play-ins where the Leafs were cycling it up. I think they needed a goal or something like that. It was tight in the game, and you gave Ceci the puck on the far side, and then I think it was Jim Houston, he said something like, "Ceci rips it," and he missed the net by a mile. And just that moment where Ceci rips a shot extraordinarily wide of the net, and you can see, before the camera pans around to follow the puck, Ceci kind of looks at his stick, and he kind of looks at it with that glance that says, man, what's wrong with this thing? And that's kind of the epitome of Cody Ceci in Toronto from my point of view, because Ceci with the Leafs just wasn't really that same guy that people thought he was going to be back when he was, for example, drafted 15th overall by the Sens in 2012. Early on in his career, Cody Ceci was seen as this puck-moving, offensively capable right-handed defenseman, and as his career went along, you saw a little bit less production creeping in year after year. And with Toronto, I think things kind of took a turn for the worst, because ultimately they didn't bring him back. Ceci then went over to the Penguins, and the guy really did bounce back, statistically speaking, 17 points in 53 games played. For some reason, man, the overall consensus upon Cody Ceci and his reputation with the Penguins fanbase has been so much more positive than I've ever seen this guy before. It's kind of reminding me of how Sens fans were kind of, just chilling out and being like, yeah, we've got this Cody Ceci guy, he's new on the team, and, he's cool. That's the kind of reputation, the kind of vibe that I'm getting from the Pittsburgh Penguins here. And it's not even just Cody Ceci, it's Jack Johnson too, which is really incredible to see. But at the end of the day, you take a look at what the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up gaining from this trade. You have Ben Harper and Luchuk, okay, sure, those are guys. You have the third round pick, okay, cool, but that's not affecting your organization yet. Cody Ceci was there. for a year. Cody Ceci's not here anymore. He was a free agent signed by Pittsburgh. Boom, the trade is done. As for Ottawa, though, you have Nikita Zaitsev, who is in a spot where the guy honestly has just been doing what he does best. He had 17 points in 55 games this season. Sure, he was a minus 13, but towards the end of the season, man, you really saw this Nikita Zaitsev going out there, and for some reason, just absolutely showing off. Showing up the Maple Leafs especially too. Far side slappers from the half boards that beat Jack Campbell or whichever goalie was in the net that day, something like that. You have yourselves Nikita Zaitsev being defined by Pierre Dorion as an elite defender. He said he feels comfortable on our right side because Zaitsev is an elite guy. He can defend top players in our league. Shabbat is hard because he's always playing the best players. I think when Sanderson gets here, he won't have to play all those tough minutes. And granted, he kind of just intertwined that Zaitsev thing in there when discussing Sanderson and his overall deployment when he does arrive in Ottawa. But just the confidence that you have in Nikita Zaitsev and the good plays that you have been seeing from this guy towards the end of the season especially. Really good plus there for the Ottawa Senators. And we haven't even spoken a word about Connor Brown yet, who came over here, was like one of the first guys to get his Fantasy Hockey Ultimate Team card up to like 95 plus, because the guy was an absolute goal-scoring machine. 21 goals, a career high, in 56 games played. 21 divided by 56 multiplied out by 82 is 31 goals in an 82-game season. He had 35 points on the year in 56 games. If you do the math for that, he would have been a 50-point guy. Connor Brown would have come out here and shattered his goal totals and point totals in his entire career's worth of overall success. And it's kind of crazy, because this is the guy who, if you give him that spot, he can go out there and he can produce. And he's only making $3.6 million until 2023. He's still got 2 more years at 27 years old as well. He's definitely not an old guy. I remember the days when Connor Brown was back there with the Erie Otters, playing with Connor McDavid when McDavid was still a youngin'. Crazy to see how far he has come along to the point that now this guy is out here as a goal-scoring machine for the Sens. It's crazy to think about the values of how both of these sides are so unequal now, because you could debate all you want back in 2019 who won the trade, who had the best value and all that. At the end of the day, you know what the Leafs were trying to do. They needed a change on the right side, and they got that with Ceci. They needed to get rid of some cap, and they did that by getting rid of Connor Brown. But the Sens, man, now, 2 years later, you take a look at these players and what they mean to the Sens, and you're like, darn, these are pretty good assets. Like, these guys are doing some very good things for our team. Meanwhile, Toronto, not really getting too much out of Aaron Luchuk. Yeah, I get that he went to the Habs. And Cody Ceci, he's gone. And as we said, the 3rd-round pick, that's not going to help out your team. Man, 2 years down the line, this trade looks like an absolute Ottawa Senators win. And you know, it is kind of funny how that happens, because Cody Ceci is like legitimately pretty okay now, playing for a Pittsburgh team that certainly isn't Toronto. It's kind of funny how that works, isn't it? You got Toronto guys who are under scrutiny, who are getting heavily criticized by the media. Then what happens when they go to Pittsburgh? Oh, they thrive. Sometimes they even win 2 straight Stanley Cups. Yeah, I'm totally not talking about Phil Kessel, but talk to me in the comments what you thought about this video over here. Really kind of niche-ish topic, not really the most zoned-in thing in the world, but either way, let me know in the comments what you thought about the Connor Brown, Zaitsev, Ceci trade back then when it happened in 2019, and what your thoughts are on it today. I already shared my piece. I think this is a great win for the Sens 2 years down the line. Obviously, with the Leafs being in the position they are in, which is the top team in the Canadian division, and one of the top teams in the NHL, points-wise, I think they're fine. They're okay with losing out on a trade like this, especially since, you know, you have Connor Brown and all that making a significant amount of money, which is why they needed to do it in the first place. But yeah, talk to me in the comments whether you enjoyed this video, and bye.